Hello and welcome back to the Money Bear Podcast. This is your host, Chloe Daniels, better known as Chloe Bear Money Coach on the internet. This is the Money Bear Podcast where we get bear about all things related to money. So, guys, guess what I did this week? This is like a common theme in my life. I do this a lot. And if you're an online dater, you probably do this a lot too. But I got to the point, I'm still in Portland. It's September 22nd as I'm recording this. And I got to the point where I was like, all right, Chloe, we need some intimacy. We haven't made out with somebody since May. We need to like feel another person again. You catch my drift. And so what do? I get on Hinge and I'm like, all right, we're gonna do this. We're gonna go out on a date. That's all we need. We're just gonna go out on a date. So I start swiping and I connect with this person who's like really cool. They're a business owner. They're out there getting their bag and they are essentially working or I think they let me wait, let me backtrack. I believe they quit their job to pursue real estate full time. And then they also run a badass nonprofit in their spare time. Like, what? Super cool, very attractive. And I was like, yeah, this is what I want. This is what I'm trying to manifest into my life. And I start texting her and we're messaging back and forth. I'm not very consistent with it because, I went to FinCon and at FinCon things were too busy and too crazy for me to really pay attention. So I was like, all right, I'm not going to really, worry about this all that much. And then when I got back, I was like having one of those nights. I was like, be nice to spend some time with a person. And so I got back on the app, and sure enough, she had messaged me again. And every single message that she sent me was just kind of cracking me up. So I was like, all right, this seems like a cool person to meet up with. So let's just give it a go. So I make plans with her, and I'm supposed to go to this showing for her nonprofit on Wednesday this week. And when you make plans that you can't cash in on, when your like extroverted self is like, yeah, we're going to make plans. And then your introverted self gets to the time where you made the plans and you're like, what were we thinking? Why did you want us to do what? Like drive 30 minutes and get ready and look cute on a Wednesday night? Absolutely not. And so not only that, the last week I've been working with my business coach on a new venture for, I don't know if venture is the right word. We're trying a new process out for Clobear, which I'm very excited about, and it will take the pressure off of having to constantly grow on Instagram. But it's been a really, really intense week. And last week was like a recovery week from FinCon. And then the week before that was FinCon. And then the week before that, I was sick. And so I kind of just feel really tired. And I decided to text her the morning of Wednesday and just be honest and say, you know what? You seem really cool. And I don't think I'm in the right headspace for dating right now. I always get these like whims where I'm like, all right, now's the time. I'm gonna do it. We're gonna do this. We're gonna go out there and meet people. And then the day comes and I'm like, absolutely not. We are not gonna do that because I'm too tired and I'm leaving in a couple of weeks. Like I'm not staying in Portland. So what was the point? So anyway, the day came and I was like, I want to be excited about this, but I'm not excited about this. So I sent that dreaded text message where I was like, I feel so bad. I don't want to be a flake, but I'm being a flake and you do seem cool. And I was trying to make an exception for you, but I just can't do it. And of course, I got nothing but a positive response. That's the thing, folks. When we're honest in the dating world, people 90% of the time, unless they're a douchebag, they appreciate the honesty because honesty is so freaking rare. And what does she respond with? She goes, you know what? I'm kind of in the same boat. I totally get it. Renovations here in my business are crazy. They're taking up a lot of my time. I actually already paused my Hinge profile because I'm so overwhelmed. Don't even sweat it. And I was like, you're so cool. Thank you. I appreciate that. And so we ended up like exchanging Instagram accounts and maybe we'll meet in real life one day. Maybe we won't. But now I've got like another internet friend. So anyway, I thought you guys would find that entertaining. But man, I can't wait to San Francisco. Not San Man, see, I'm that tired that I think I'm moving to San Francisco. But I can't wait to move to San Diego so I can find my person. Like I do want to date. I do want to do things but I don't want to right now. It's just not my time. 2023, man. 2023 is my year. So, anyway, I thought I would share that because I know you guys love hearing about my dating life, even though my dating life's pretty non existent. I would say that was a good dating story where it was like I was honest with somebody and they were honest back. And now I think maybe we'll be friends. I'm always, I say think because I'm always skeptical of like people who you're going to be friends with off of dating apps. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. And since I won't be living in Portland, I feel like there's a good chance it's probably not going to happen, but at the same time, it's nice to know that that option is there. So that's what I got going on. Besides that, there's Clo Bear meetup on Friday this week, and so I'm excited for that. We don't have many people registered, but I like small groups anyway. Um, and yeah, so before we get to this week's episode with one of my favorite humans, Saya Hillman, let's get to the money tip of this week. And what I want to share in the money tip this week is basically what's called your financial order of operations. Financial order of operations, I believed, was coined by the money guys, so I can't take credit for it. But essentially, it's like, what do you do in the investing? Specifically, we're going to talk about the investing world. What order should you go and how should you prioritize things? What should you start with first? What's the most important? And I just want to briefly highlight my personal order of investing operations. Now, the way that I have determined this order of investing operations is I am trying to get the most tax savings, the most easy tax savings as much as possible. So that's the order we're going to go in. Now, the very first thing you need to do when starting to invest is number one, you need to get your employer match. If you have a 401k or a 403b or a 457 or a TSP where they offer an employer match, that should be a no-brainer. You should be getting that employer match no matter what, because essentially that's free money. Your employer is saying, if you put money into your 401k or 403b or 457, we're going to match the amount of money that you put into that dollar for dollar or 50 cents on the dollar, depending on your company, up to a certain percentage point. Why wouldn't we accept that? Why wouldn't we take that? Take it, okay? Number two, the next thing, once you're getting that max, the next thing I would personally prioritize is either an HSA, a Roth IRA, or a traditional IRA. One of those, or an HSA and a Roth IRA, or an HSA and a traditional IRA. Here's why. The HSA and the Roth IRA are two of the most flexible retirement accounts that are available. Period. End of story. No other accounts allow you to withdraw things early. Now, granted, with the Roth IRA, you can withdraw contributions at any time. So any money that you put into the Roth IRA account, you can take out at any time. HSAs are different. HSAs, as long as you are investing that money and you are using it long term and you are using the money for medical expenses, you can access your HSA dollars at any time. Now, granted, the hack, in my opinion, is using the HSA for retirement purposes. So you're still holding on to it for decades in order to let that money grow. However, you can theoretically at any time submit a receipt for a medical expense that happened since you opened that HSA and get that reimbursed. So it's kind of this cool workaround that allows you to put money in tax free and take money out tax free and also get tax-free growth. So it's triple tax savings that you just don't get in any other type of savings accounts. Now, I just glossed over what an HSA is. I have many posts on HSAs on my TikTok and my Instagram. If you're ever looking for those and you can't find them, just let me know and I'll DM it to you. So that's the next step because of the flexibility. The Roth IRA, the flexibility of being able to put money in and let it grow tax-free for the rest of your life is huge, especially in your early earning years. So that's why that's my second step. And then if you can't contribute directly to a Roth IRA or you don't have an HSA, the traditional IRA is still a good option. The reason I like the traditional IRA is that, yeah, you may not be getting tax-free growth, but you're getting tax-deferred growth. And tax-deferred growth just basically means you're kicking the tax bill down the road. So let's say you put in $6,000 and it grows to $10,000. Well, you just made $4,000. That $4,000 in a traditional IRA, eventually you're going to have to pay taxes on that. And when? It depends on when you take that money out in retirement. So that's the second step. The reason I recommend those as well is that you usually have more investment options and lower fees inside of those types of accounts rather than in your 401ks or 403bs. So step 3, if you've done that, you've gotten your match, you've maxed out a Roth IRA, an HSA, or if you can't do a Roth IRA, a traditional IRA and an HSA, and you still have money that you want to be investing, which great, good job. That's a good problem to have. Then you want to move on to maxing out your 401k, 403b, 457, whatever it is that you have through your workplace plan. Now, if you're an entrepreneur, there's an entire episode where we talk about self-employed accounts. Go check that out. I don't remember which it is off the top of my head, but there is definitely resources out there. The 401k, what's cool about the 401k, most people I would say have a traditional 401k where the money goes in pre-tax. There are also Roth options out there that allows your money to grow tax-free, but there are no income restrictions on who can contribute to a 401k, and you can contribute a lot more dollars. Now, one of the things that people get confused a lot is max versus match. A match is what your employer is willing to put into the 401k on your behalf, and it's usually up to a maximum of 3 or 4%. That doesn't mean that's the only amount of money you can put into your 401k. You can put in up to $20,500 in 2022, and you can do an extra, I want to say $5,000 if you're over the age of 50, but fact check me on that. It's around $5,000. I can't remember. But that allows you to save a lot more money. And think about it this way. If you're using a traditional account, a pre-tax account, that money goes in before taxes. So that means more money is growing on behalf of you. And yes, you will have to pay taxes on that later in life. But what's cool about putting money into a pre-tax account is that, let's say you make $100,000 a year and you put $20,000 into your 401k and it's traditional. That means instead of paying taxes on $100,000 of income, you actually get to pay taxes on $80,000 of income. Kind of cool. That significantly lowers your tax bill in the years that you're contributing. So I love a good 401k. Now, granted, it does depend. Some people have terrible 401k options that are high fee and don't allow them to pick very good investments. Well, then maybe you don't want to prioritize a 401k. It varies person to person. Now, the final thing is if you've done all of those steps, you've optimized your investments as much as possible from a tax perspective, then you can move on to the taxable brokerage. The taxable brokerage is just like an individual brokerage account, an individual investing account, and it's the Robinhoods of the world, the Stashes of the world. But I don't recommend those apps. What I recommend is taxable brokerages through your regular brokerage like Fidelity or Vanguard or Charles Schwab. Why? Because these are low-cost brokerages that are going to give you unending options in terms of what you can invest in. And if you use something like Fidelity, you can start with as little as $1. Now, taxable brokerages are not going to, if you think of the name, taxable, they're not going to save you a lot of money in taxes, but they're going to provide you with the most flexibility. You get to decide how much you put in. You get to decide if you're buying or selling. I mean, you can decide if you're buying and selling in any of these accounts, but you don't have to follow any rules. Except for don't inside trade. But if you're a lazy investor, you're not inside trading. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting on a side tangent, friends. But you get to decide what to do. You get to decide when you're buying. You get to decide when you're selling. You get to decide when you're accessing it. And it's all up to you. Now, the downside is that you get taxed on that. So if you make money, you get taxed on that. If you get paid a dividend, you get taxed on that. So it is going to add to your income in the year that you're making those capital gains or making those dividends. But still, the flexibility is kind of nice. I didn't actually open a taxable brokerage until last year, but I'm still focusing on maxing out my solo 401k, which I can put up to $60,000 into. So I haven't reached that yet. And then I also max out my IRA because ultimately I'm more interested in tax savings than the flexibility that a taxable brokerage offers. So I hope that's helpful. If you have questions or if you want to see that in writing, I have that in my free Get Your Money Right guide. You can grab that at thelazyinvestorscourse.com/guide. That is in the show notes, but that's going to contain those financial order operations that I just explained. And it'll give you a little bit of explanation for each one of those steps as well. So definitely check that out, download that. And if you need more, highly recommend you come to my free investing class that I host at the end of every month. You can find out more information at thelazyinvestorscourse.com/webinar. Again, 2 free resources for you. So today we have an amazing guest who I've my money coaching career too, Saya Hillman. I'm freaking excited to bring her on. But before we do, friendly reminder to please rate, review, and subscribe. It helps us out a lot. So let's get to it, my friends. All right. So, welcome back to the Money Bear podcast. Today, we have on a special guest who totally changed my life. Now, I know I say that a lot, but that's because I bring on life-changing people onto the podcast. But this person, Saya Hillman, actually is the reason that I started money coaching when I started money coaching. So, I can't wait to dive into all that she does and share kind of how I know her as well. But Saya, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I can't believe little baby Clo Bear is so adult and like killing it right now.
I know, it's so weird to think about. So I want to say I met you. I remember the first time you and I had a conversation about like our relationship. I think it was when I was hosting the I Can't Budget the first time, and you were like, "Yeah, I met Clo Bear about a year ago." And I remember in that time, I was like, "Was it a year ago?" It was like 3 months before that.
Was it really?
Because I actually met you at your very last cross it off day at the mansion.
Was that the first time that we met? I remember you because I was like, who is this girl? She's really interesting. I'm going to check out her blog. And I was like, oh, she really knows what she's talking about.
Yes.
Oh.
But it goes to show you how long 2020 was.
Yeah. But, and I know we're all sick of like this phrase, but like silver linings, so many silver linings, right?
Literally so many silver linings. Like I wouldn't be who I am without 2020 at this point. So anyway, before we dive into kind of our story of connection and how you changed my life, kind of give everybody an explanation of who Saya Hillman is. What do you do? What is Mac and Cheese Production? Give us your little elevator speech.
Sure. So, I basically, after I graduated school in Boston and moved back to Chicago, where I grew up in the Chicagoland suburbs, I just realized that adulting was a lot more difficult than I thought it would, than people talked about. And I felt really like alone. I was like, am I the only person who like hates traditional networking events? Am I the only person who cannot go to one more bar happy hour and pretend to like be enjoying myself and not just want to go home and eat a pint of Ben and Jerry's by myself and think that's a much better evening. So I definitely like wallowed in my misery and this can't be like the rest of my life for a while. And then I got really tired of hearing myself complain about, I'm a big believer of, the quote of, be the change that you want. So I finally realized that. And so that's how Mac and Cheese started was, I just started throwing events. Well, first of all, I got fired. So I probably would not have had the cojones to start my own business had my then boss not fired me. So I do need to put that out there that I didn't just, taking a risk and going out on your own, that's a big leap. So I thank my boss now for firing me. When I got fired, sat down on my couch, made a list of all the things, no matter how ridiculous they were, that I wish I could get paid to do, wear flip-flops and jeans, sit on my couch, playing board games and meeting new people, scrapbooking, making music playlists, all the stuff.
Literally all the things that people wouldn't even think to include in the list, which I love.
Right? And how many of us would have, and I did have these internal whispers of like, Saya, you can't make a business out of that. Like, who's going to pay you to XYZ? Well, long story short, 19 years later, in 2 weeks, it'll be 19 years, which I cannot believe. And so 19 years of doing all of the things, but the gist being, I make life more fun, more fulfilling, and easier, both for myself and for the people who do all of my different offerings. And those run the gamut, but they all fall under the umbrella of I offer people things that bring me joy. I have found things that bring me joy and that pay my bills and that bring other people joy as well. There's no like elevator pitch for Mac and Cheese, which sometimes I get really like, when you're like at a party or you just want to quickly say like, I'm a receptionist, right. I'm a doctor, I'm a teacher, and people know immediately what you're saying.
Right.
0.1% of the time, I wish that was me, but all the other percent of the time, I am so glad that I cannot answer questions like, what do you do in a concise manner? Or, what's your typical day? So I just make people call me accessible Oprah. That's often what I say, and then people are like, "What does that mean?" And I'm like, "Okay, well, let me tell you."
Oh my gosh, what a like amazing compliment and also very accurate. I love the like accessible part. The accessible Oprah, somebody you could actually get to know and hang out with.
I'm not too busy in my vineyard on my private plane or
Yeah,
whatever. Yeah.
right. No, I love it. I love it. And we'll dive more into kind of what you currently have going on later. But I love it. And I love I think about you a lot. Like I think about your approach to business when I talk to other business owners or when I talk to people who think that they can't be multifaceted. And even in my own journey, there's been times where I've been like, you know what? Saya does it all. She does whatever she wants. And if I want to do something and if it's like in my soul, I remind myself of that, of like, you don't have to be this one thing all the time. And like, I recently was thinking about that specifically in terms of like, in my mind, I want to be this like badass business owner building an empire. And for most of my life, there's like one version of what that is and like thinking through like I don't have to be that one version. So I love your journey and I can't wait to dive deeper into it because I think it's so inspiring and I think that's often what holds people back is thinking that they can't be many things at one time.
Absolutely. And I feel like of the myriad of reasons that I hear all of the time for why people cannot XYZ, move to a new city, quit their job, start their own business, ask someone out, take a sabbatical, whatever the thing is. We're as adults, we're very good at making excuses. And one of the top excuses I hear is something to that effect of, but what will people think if I
Oh
am
yeah.
a dog walker and I'm also a photographer and I'm also a baker? Like, I don't, and to me, it boggles my mind that, first of all, that you would be ashamed or weirded out by being a human being and having multiple interests. And like, people are nervous about like their clients for one business, learning that they have other
Mm-hmm.
interests and hobbies like and skills, like that's what humans, that's, I would
Yes.
love it if my dog walker also bakes cakes and is also a photographer. That's awesome, and I might
Right.
hire them for that stuff too.
Right, because it's like 90% of the time people are hiring the person. It's not necessarily just because you're the best at what you do or whatever. People are willing to pay the prices that they pay to work with me because they like me. But they
Yep.
could go to anybody else and get the same knowledge, but obviously a different style and a different take from somebody else probably cheaper, but the reason that they want to work with me is because they want to work with me. And I think that that's
It's
such
the
an
twerking. It's the twerking. We all know what it is.
we all know that that's why they come for me, my bad twerking. Although it's so funny, anytime I post a video now of me twerking, and I feel like I have to do twerking in air quotes because I don't want to insult people who can actually twerk. But every time I do it, people comment and they're like, your twerking has really improved.
And you're like, okay, thank
Thank
you.
you. Practice makes perfect, or better at least.
And I have to give you, let me give you a little Chloe shout out for sticking to your guns. Because I remember when you first started doing those dance videos, and I remember just thinking, kind of like, oh, Chloe, that's so cute. Like, good luck with that. And I really did not that I didn't think anything would come of it because, I had all of the confidence in you and you were just having fun. And that's what people are so, attracted to
Right.
your personality. But I definitely, I think it was, I felt like I felt like you were putting in so much time. And I think you even alluded to like how much time you were like recording these videos, and, asking people to like follow you on YouTube and all that. And I was just like, wow, this is just so much effort. And is it worth it? And I honestly did not think it was worth it. And you proved me wrong because look at you now. So, I just think
I love it.
it's a good lesson to just like, you got to listen to yourself. Right. And there's nothing wrong with like asking people's opinions and advice and all of that. But at the end of the day, you, and I'm glad that you did not listen, or
Girl,
I'm glad that you did your own thing.
I tell you what, even my boyfriend at the time, I remember posting it and I didn't know. I just knew why not me? Like that was the thing. It's like, why not me? And why not do it in a way that's authentic? And then people started loving it. And I was like, I guess this is what I do now. And so, but
Okay.
I remember when I started a TikTok, it was right after the blueprint workshop that we did in New Year's. And It was me and my boyfriend at the time. And I was like, you know what? Based off of all these goals that I have, I am going to start a TikTok account. And like, I don't know what I'm doing. It freaks me out. It's overwhelming. But I was like, screw it, I'm going to do it. And the first TikTok I posted, I sent it to my boyfriend at the time. And he goes, that's a TikTok. And I was like, now at the time I thought he was like impressed and like proud of me. And then like, months later when I had gotten really good at it, he goes, yeah, I was a little worried in the beginning because I like completely misread what he was saying. That's a TikTok. Where he's just like, that's a TikTok. But
And look
my,
at
how
you,
far
you
we've
kept
come.
going, right? Yeah, you kept going, and I think that
Yeah.
I think you shared an earlier video of yourself, an earlier TikTok of you, like recently, and it was like just like, yeah, it's just so cool to see people's growth. And one of the things I love about your story is how fast it's happened for you,
Yeah.
and just I mean, I think that's one of the beauties for all the people shit on social media. Like that's just one of the beauties of social media is,
A
I mean,
hundred
can you
percent.
imagine? Like neither of us would be where we were if it were not for this
No.
amazing free platforms, right?
No, I mean, before social media, there was no such thing as free marketing at all. At all. It's like we're so blessed. But so I want to, speaking of that, I want to bring it back to how I knew you and kind of how you changed my life. It always sounds so corny when I say that, but I really do mean it.
Oh, I don't think
Uh,
it's corny at all. Keep
I'm like,
saying it.
you changed my life. So anyway, back in 2020, it was kind of like I was still kind of figuring out who I wanted to be and what I wanted to do and what my purpose was. I had at the time that mental health blog, clobear.com, which still exists. It's not really active anymore, but I had been kind of like dabbling in and out of the finance space where I was tracking my spending and sharing it on clobear.com every month. And that's when you were first introduced to Clobear. Was I came to your Cross It Off Day. Saya hosts this really cool Cross It Off Day where it's literally just getting a bunch of people together to get shit done. And it's this magical thing that happens when people are together is like you're able to focus. It's like having a very intense co-working space, but like a community as well. And I was like, you know what, screw it. I'm going to do it because I was writing a book at the time. And it was like a book that I was writing for fun. It was fiction. Or no, it wasn't fiction. It was about my life. But anyway, I showed up and at the beginning gave like we all gave an introduction. At the end, we like gave an introduction as well. And at the end, that's when you were like, oh, clobear.com. And I think at the time my motto was mostly profanity and oversharing a blog about adulting. And you were like, check. You were like, I never subscribed to email lists, but I'm going to subscribe to this one. And I didn't even send out emails. Anyway, fast forward another month later, and I went to your Mingler. I think it was the last Mingler as well. And at that time, I was thinking more and more. I was like, I really love this finance stuff, and I want to get more involved in it. And then I kept sharing those posts on the internet of just about budgeting. And one day, I think it was in May, you messaged me and you're like, I think you have a skill. Would you like to come teach a class about budgeting? And I was like, I've never done that before, but yes, absolutely, I will do that because that is in line with what I think I want to do. And so I spent so many hours putting together that slide deck. Oh my God, girl. I spent like at least, God, probably 50 freaking hours on that slide deck and was super prepared, put together a 3-hour workshop, and it was a blast. It was so cool. And of course, people wanted to work with me afterwards. I like how I say, of course. Like, of course, it was so good that people wanted to work with me afterwards.
Like, that time that you put in, it was just so evident. And I think people could, just looking at your deck, looking at all the other resources that you provided, even your follow-up email, people could immediately tell that like, what you're talking about. And this is like high quality. And then you combine that with like your personality. And one of the things I love about you is that you, when people think of like finance people, they don't really think
They're not thinking of
right?
me.
Right? They're thinking of like stuffing and like they're gonna make you feel bad because I'm gonna talk down to you and I'm gonna use big words that you don't know. And if you, blah, blah, blah. So yes. So of course you're right to say that. Of course people wanted to work with you.
People wanted to work with me afterwards. Well, anyway, so then I was like, well, I guess I'm a money coach now. And so I started dabbling in coaching people kind of on and off throughout the rest of 2020. And in 2021, I was finally like, I'm gonna take this seriously. After spending like 2 months, I took a break and I was like, this is too much. I don't know if I can keep doing this. And then I just decided, who do I really want to be and who do I want to turn into? And like, what if I just decided to go all in, try this. And then at least I could say that if I failed, I tried. And so that's when 2021, I was like, here we go. And then obviously 2021 became what it was. But I remember in that first little workshop, I was like, Saya, what if we make it free? I'm afraid nobody's gonna want to come. And it was, I think it was like what, $34
Yes,
for like
very accessible, right?
for
Very
a
accessible.
3-hour workshop. Like I don't sell anything for $34 now. And you gave me that confidence of like, Chloe, you were like, we'll do a pay what you want option or pay what you can option. Not one person paid what they could. Everybody paid full price. And like, it was a hit. It was an amazing thing. So you really got me started. I don't know if I would have started money coaching at that point. I probably would have waited and waited and waited, and I wouldn't be who I am now. So I'm forever grateful for you.
Well, thank you for saying that, and thank you for making it so easy. Like you know that, especially in the beginning when you were taking one-on-one client, like you were one of my favorite people to refer because I just had complete. As somebody, I'm 100% word of mouth. Have been since day one, so 19 years. I know like how important like reputation is and referrals, and I take them so seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And to have someone like you, especially someone like you, like you are in a completely different sphere than me. So like, I love that when people come to me with problems that I cannot help them with, it is the best thing ever to have your dream team, to immediately be able to say, I can't help you, but I know who can, go see Chloe. So high class problem, like you, I was so sad when you stopped taking one-on-one, but I was like, I totally get it because it is exhausting, and it's not like you stopped helping people. You're just doing it in a different way, and a way I think is with very life of yes, in a way that you are getting what you need, and people are still getting what they need, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Like I scaled very, very quickly with the coaching. I dabbled in it in 2020. And then by 2021, I think it was by April, I was selling out every single session that I had months in advance. And it was like constantly every time I announced it. And I was like, oh, this is not sustainable. And as somebody who loves what she does, I wanted to say yes to everybody. But it got to the point where it was like doing a full-time job and coaching full-time. My first month, I don't know if I ever told you this, my very first month as a full-time entrepreneur, I had 60 coaching clients in 1 month. And then the second month, I also had 60 coaching clients. And most of my coaching clients were 2 hours. And so by the end of October, then the end of November, I was like, I'm going to die. I have to figure out a way to take myself out of like trading my time for money. And that's when the course was born. And, that was life changing as well. So, but yeah, I mean, again, high class problem, right? And
Yep.
figuring
And
out those ways.
sometimes living a life of yes means say no. I say that all of the time. And that took me a long time to realize that, but so true. And especially I think for women and people of color, we oftentimes have trouble saying no. And it is the most empowering. You are a better whatever XYZ fill in the blank when you say no, when you learn that you need to when you're selfish. Like I think selfish has a negative connotation, and I've been trying to like flip it like it doesn't have to be negative to take time for yourself and to put yourself first, because oftentimes when you put yourself first, you are a better boss, coworker, boyfriend, girlfriend, parent, whatever, fill in the blank. Like when you are, it's the whole flight attendant, put the mask on yourself and then help the other people, right?
100%. And I love you bringing up the no thing, because actually I remember the first time I told someone no and I messaged you because I had just read your like boundary. So first off, I want to plug you real quick. Saya has an amazing blog. She is a fantastic writer. I don't know if you're actively blogging anymore, but even your old posts, they're so good. They're so jam-packed with value. And one of the blog posts that I read was where you were talking about how you were no longer accepting the, hey, can I pick your brain questions, and how you were handling those requests, because I was getting so many of them at the time. And I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I want to help these people, but like, I literally can't. And I remember I read it and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to say no. Somebody slipped into my DMs and they were like, hey, I'm in the Chicago area too. I would really love to pick your brain about what your goals are with real estate, because I think we have similar goals. And I messaged them. I said, I really don't have any time outside of client work right now. I appreciate it, but I'm going to have to say no. And I messaged you. I go, Saya, it feels so. I think I sent you a screenshot. I was like, it feels so good to say
and what
no.
happened? Did he take to the internet and crucify by you and call you a horrible name. No,
No,
right?
I mean, I'm sure they were disappointed. I'm sure they were hurt, but it was like I felt so good just being like, I'm protecting my own time and I cannot, like, I don't owe anybody anything. I'm doing the best I can. And that has been such an important lesson in the creator influencer space because now 66,000 people on Instagram alone are vying for my time.
Mhm.
I had to figure out those boundaries, and as you said, saying no to something is saying yes to yourself or something.
And to these people who want help, like, and they oftentimes, when you're just honest, like, I have actually said, you, so you just mentioned that you told him that you don't have the time. If we
Mhm.
were like actually going to break down your, you probably do have the time to go get coffee for 30 minutes with somebody, but you don't want to. And that's
No.
totally fine. That is, and right. And so there's another level of like, I feel like a bitch here because I could slip this person in, but I don't want to.
Right.
And I was like, I can never tell people. And thus I was like, we're all humans. Everybody gets that. The idea that like no is a complete sentence. You don't have to explain. That's very true, and I love that. But I also think the flip side of that is that if someone reaches out and you are just your like transparent human self and just say like I don't do coffees anymore. I don't do coffee. Thank you so much for the very flattering words. I really appreciate it. I've decided to uh, change my priorities and how I spend my resources. And I don't do coffees anymore. But I'm going to be at this event in 2 weeks. If you want to meet me there, I host
Mhm.
events. You can come to that. Here, I saw that you're interested in these topics. Here's some blog posts that I wrote. You can go watch
Yeah.
this video. Blah blah blah. So there's it's not like you and I are just saying no bitch, why do you even reach out to me, like
No.
you're being a human person who no, but here maybe this might help you, right?
100%. And that's the answer now when people ask, do I do one on coaching? I'm like, no, but here are all the things that you can get the information you need. So it's we're still humans and we're still nice people. It's you don't have to be a mean person just to say no. But we've hinted at it already, this life of yes thing. We've thrown that phrase out a couple of times. So Saya, what is life of yes?
Basically it comes down to you realizing that you are the driver of your own bus, right? And that you don't let anybody else choose what path you're going to take, and that knowing that you can always choose a different path. You can always stop. You can always try going down one path and realizing that's not for you and go the other direction. And that is not failure by any means. That life of yes is for me, it's discovering what your definition of success is, and also what Mark Manson calls it your God value. Like, what is the thing that you choose over everything else? And like, what dictates your choices in life. And for me, my God value is quality of life. So to
Mhm.
me, the most important things in a life of yes is figuring out what your definition of success is, like not society's definition, a Lamborghini, you're size 2, you make 6 figures, you live in an exposed brick condo and have stainless steel appliances, whatever. Like, sure, I mean, if that is your success, great. But that's often not what everybody cares about. So figuring out what your definition of success is, and then also figuring out what your, if quality of life is important to you, like what does that actually mean? Because quality of life is different for everybody. So, I do my list is includes things like being able to go to yoga and Trader Joe's at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday morning, being able to take a nap at 2 p.m. on a Wednesday, working really hard on a Friday or Saturday and not caring or even knowing that it's a weekend just because it's like, it's my baby. But then I'm going to take off some, random Wednesday and I don't have to check in with anybody. For me, so most of my like life of yes ingredients fall under the umbrella of like autonomy and freedom.
Mhm.
And not having to waste time. Like I love efficiency and I love Saya time. And don't I do not agree with lots of phone calls and meetings. They just don't sit well with me. I love looking at my calendar and seeing a big blank square. Whereas like 22-year-old Saya would be like, oh my God, I'm such a loser. I have so many blank squares in my calendar. And now I'm like, hallelujah, I have a blank day. My husband and I, we have a little song we're talking about blank day, we've got a blank day. We get so excited. We're so middle-aged. It's ridiculous.
Oh my God, that's so cute. I love that. I resonate with that fully and completely. If I see like two things on my calendar, even if they're 30 minutes long, I'm like, fuck, today's gonna be busy.
Right? And
Yeah.
I don't know if you feel this, but like, so like I said, I've been work from home and self-employed for 19 years. I have not had to put on pants in 19 years. So many people are just coming into this world, with the pandemic. But so it's been a long time that I've like been in a 9 to 5 office. But any time that I have to like go downtown and I'm gone from my home for like 5 hours, I'm like, how did I used to do this every single day? And how do people still do this? I cannot do it. I mean, I need to like, if I go and leave my house for more than 5 hours, I need to come back and recoup for like a week. Like,
Yes.
it took a lot out of me.
100. I relate to that so much. So I'm a pretty extroverted person, although I would identify as an ambivert where I'm like 60-40, I would say. And I had this realization when I got to Portland because my sister lives in Hillsboro, which is about 30 minutes away from Portland, and the drive sucks. But I obviously want to spend as much time with her as possible, but I wasn't going to stay out in Hillsboro. So I came out here, or have been coming out here at least 2 times a week. And every time it's like commuting to work. And I'm like, oh my God. And it's only 30 minutes. I used to live in Logan Square and commute to Glenview or Oak Park. And I was driving an hour and a half both ways. And I'm like, how the actual hell did I ever do this 5 days a week? Like, I can't even imagine. And I remember there were times in my commute, which I mean, 90-94, it's like it's awful. So I would take 290 over a 90-94. But there would be times where I'd be stuck in traffic, like something could go wrong and I'd be stuck in traffic for like 2 hours. And I specifically remember screaming in my car, just holding onto the steering wheel and just screaming to let out all the frustration because it was like, I'm literally wasting my life in a car. Yeah. And I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know where I was going, but it all started with just like starting a blog and just being like, screw it, I'm tired of it. I love that you brought up Mark Manson because Mark Manson is one of the books that helped me just say fuck it and do something, not knowing the very life of Yessie of just like trying things to figure out what is my thing gonna be. And I remember I was reading his book, the first one, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. And in it, I started crying because I was reading about like, life is all about choosing the kind of shit you're willing to put up with, the kind of shit you want to deal with. There's shit with everything you do. You got to pick what that shit is. And I just remember just like feeling like I felt so trapped in the world that I had created for myself because it wasn't in alignment with who I was and what I wanted to do. And so not knowing what I was going to turn into, I just took the next step and I was like, I need purpose. Let's start a blog. Let's write and tell the world my feelings.
And I love that because I think another thing that I hear from so many people on like, that's a stumbling block or a hurdle for them in living the life that they want is not being able to answer the questions that you just alluded to. They're like, so if you could do anything, what would you do with your life? What are you passionate about? And so many people feel so much shame that they are a certain age and can't answer that question. Like it's ridiculous that society tells you that, again, that you have to pick one lane, like, you have to be a lawyer, you have to be that, whatever it is. And you can't be, a multi-potentialite, you can't have multiple interests. And also that you can't, that you have to know the answer to that kind of stuff. And I do think there is much goodness and value in knowing those answers. So I always encourage people, if you don't know the answers, A, nothing wrong with you. B, thanks for sharing. That's amazing. C, let's see if we can figure it out. Right. And then, so I love, and I think, you're the same way as far as just like giving people the resources, whether it's, read this book, watch this TED Talk, whatever, meet these people, get involved with this community. And that's really what Life of Yes is like, the actual community is people who are just trying to figure life out and realizing it's a lot easier to figure life out when you have cheerleaders, when you are not embarrassed, when everybody comes to the table and says, you know what? I have stretch marks and I'm really ashamed about that. You also have stretch marks. Oh my God, let's bond over that, right? Or whatever the thing is. We all have stuff that we would rather not bring to light, but I cannot tell you how there has been, as someone who TMIs, and I usually do it through speaking engagements or through storytelling, through my writing, through my newsletters. And I often do share things that other people would be like, I don't know if I would share that I clogged the toilet and had to ask my mother-in-law for a plunger. But hey, that's like on brand. That's how I'm known now as like the plunger girl, which is totally fine because that plunger story, like I get paid thousands of dollars to share that in keynotes at conferences and like get paid or get flown all over the country to share that stuff. I was like, so if you can find a way to turn your like literal crap, like my plunger story into gold, into money, like guess what? It's not as embarrassing anymore. It's kind of like, all right, what else am I embarrassed about that I could share? And you just see like the positiveness that results these win-win situations when you are a human being and transparent and vulnerable, and you share the stuff that you think you're the only one dealing with, your complicated relationship with your mom, your debt that you have, the bad financial decisions that you made, the fact that you hate your job, whatever it is. Once you start sharing that, it gets easier to share because
100%.
it's so cathartic. And it's helpful for you and for the people around you.
100%. That's one of the things that, I mean, this is kind of a side tangent, but this is one of the reasons I love TikTok. You think you have a unique experience, and then you go on TikTok and you realize you've never had a single unique experience in your
Yep.
entire life. But that is the beauty of it, is realizing you really are not alone. It's only you're as alone as you're allowing yourself to be. And it's like getting through those vulnerabilities and sharing those vulnerabilities is how we feel less alone, I feel like a lot of the times. And just realizing like, hey, me too. Everyone in the world can relate to clogging a toilet. If you
Thank you for
can't,
saying that.
you're lying, or there's something wrong with your bowels. Like, come on.
Hopefully it was not I was at my then boyfriend's house and trying to impress meeting his family for the first time, right? So that was like and it was at Christmas time, and like the bathroom was right off the living room where the whole family was watching football. So like just so much
gosh,
anxiety and shame and embarrassment. But guess what? That boyfriend turned into my husband, and he's my best friend. So things work out.
yes. Well, if anything, I was gonna say, I was like, if that didn't make you more endearing, then he's not the one, and they're not the people. And obviously, he was, and I love that. Oh my gosh, I love it. And I think that, like you said too, like talking about like going out and exploring and like meeting new people and all of that when you don't know what your purpose is, but also just like trying something. That's what I always tell people is like, if you don't know what it is, try something, and then at least you can check something off the box when you know it's not it.
Absolutely. And just getting out, like, I'm all for Netflix and chill, like just staying at home and like not
Mhm.
putting pants on and, binge watching whatever housewives show you want to watch. I do that all the time. But I do think that, especially if you're someone who is unhappy or you want some type of change in life, and you're maybe don't know what that change is, that, we got to be honest that if every day you choose your couch and the housewives, probably you're not going to see a lot of change in your life. The quote of like, you can't move on in the book. You can't go to the next chapter if you, oh my God, I'm fucking this up. You know that quote. You can't, if you keep rereading the last chapter, let's
Can't
just
move
move
on to
on.
the next book. Like you can't move on to the next book.
It's
Or
more
the next
poetic, but yeah,
yeah,
something like that.
yeah,
Anyway,
yeah. We get the gist
the
of it.
gist is you got to get off your ass and leave your house sometime. Basically,
100%.
say.
Oh my God. I have to remind myself that in the dating world all the time, where literally even today I like every once in a while I'll get this like, yeah, I'm ready to date. Yeah, I think it's time. And then I'll get on the app and I'll make plans with somebody. And then the date comes and I'm like, I was writing checks I couldn't cash. I don't have time for this. I don't have desire for it. And it's just not my time right now. And I have to remind myself when I'm like, I want a partner, I want somebody to like experience this with. Chloe, you're not making the time for it. You're like you have not worked the space into it. So I'm like, all right, we're gonna take ownership of that and be okay with that for right now.
But I think there's also like, I think that there is room in between what you said. So the like getting on the dating apps and like sitting on the couch and doing nothing, right? Because one of the things that worked for me and was such a light bulb moment, and when I was not really having luck with dating and really just thought I was going to be a nun for the rest of my life because that sounded better than all of the horribleness going through with dating. I realized, again, like just like with the adulting thing, I was like, this can't be the rest of my life, like single stuff or whatever. It just was not cool. But I was like, I still want to meet people, but I don't want to have this like
Expectation.
expectations. Also, like I felt like I often had to like wear a mask and be someone that I wasn't, and I always felt like there was competition. I was like sizing girls up and like feeling bad about myself, like I'm too fat, I'm too oily, I'm too whatever the stuff, right? All that stuff that we do to ourselves. And so my light bulb moment was, great. Well, like, don't put yourself in those situations. Put yourself in situations that you actually want to be in and where you can be
Mhm.
yourself, because you as yourself is your most attractive self. And I don't just mean for dating. I just mean like for making
Anything.
friends, for finding
Yeah.
clients, for anything, right? And when you have that confidence. So I always tell people, I highly recommend being experience based and focused as opposed to results focused. So like find stuff that you want to do. So for me, I decided, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go sign up for guitar classes at Old Town School of Folk Music. I love volunteering. I'm going to go to all these different volunteer projects and find one that I like, and I'm going to go do that. I'm going to get involved with the Boston College Chicago chapter and meet people that way. So I just started doing all of these things that got me off my couch in ways where I was just happy to be having the experience. And then if I met anybody as a friend, as a date, as a client, that was a cherry on top. But
Right.
I feel like you set yourself up for disappointment if you go to an event, if you sign up for a class, like, I hope I meet my best friend, I hope I meet my soulmate, because then you could have an amazing guitar class, but if you don't meet your soulmate, then you're like, oh, that sucked. I hated that. That wasn't worth the time. It's like, no.
So true. Oh my God. I feel like you just like changed my life again. I'm like, noted.
Yeah, so
like, all right, that's what we're going to do.
Well, I mean, I have to be honest here, Chloe. Like, I love when you are dating and you share it because I'm living vicariously through you. So this is all purely selfish. But I feel like for you, like, I mean, if you want to do the dating apps, great. But I feel like you're going to find your person when, especially, I think it's going to be a lot easier once you settle down, right?
Mhm.
And you get in that routine, and whether it's like through CrossFit, whether it's through dog stuff, like I feel like dog is such a great way to meet people, whether, volunteering through rescues or whatever, the hiking. Like, I feel like, because you're going to just be your beautiful, lovely, confident self doing things that you love, hiking and CrossFit and dog stuff. And then that's when you're going to meet people.
Yes. No,
one of them might be your lobster.
I love it. I love that. I literally just had my spiritual coach on to talk about, like, I was basically like, hey, you're kind of like my therapist. Tell everybody about me. I was like, tell them my problems. Tell them all that stuff, Christina. And one of the things we talked about was exactly that. Is one of the things that I've realized through this road trip was just when I am very good at putting all of my needs aside to only focus on Clobear, because Clobear makes me very happy. It is my entire, like, it's my baby, it's my passion, it's my life partner, it's all of these things, but I forget to also be Chloe sometimes. And one of the things that she's challenged me with is like, go out and do things for the sole purpose of joy. Like, that's it. That's all I need you to do. Not for growth or personal growth, business growth, learning. Go do it for fun. And so I've been doing a lot more of that. And I just noticed, like, my energy and my vibrations, whatever you want to call it, it's just so much higher. It's like it's like stepping into my better self. And one of the things, and it completely aligns with what you're saying, is like, when you're doing these things, when you're feeling your best self, when you're doing it for the experience without the expectation, or when you're doing it for the joy, it's like you're going to attract that same level of energy. And like, I want to be at my best self when I'm, or at least at a high vibration version of myself when I do eventually meet my lobster, I think you said.
Yeah. I don't know where that phrase came from. I mean, I know I didn't make it up, but yeah, I don't know where the lobster phrase came. But I always got like, I got to go like soulmate and all that kind of stuff. I was like, what's another cute name that maybe won't make people puke as much as like soulmate? I was like,
I like lobster. I like the lobster because you go into like the seafood place and they make you like pick your lobster before you eat it.
I love it. I never even thought about that before.
Oh yeah, you're like, which one of you am I gonna destroy?
I feel like there's another tattoo we're going to be getting.
I know, I'm just going to get a lobster. Just put it in, the only one in color will just be a lobster. Speaking of dating, tell us the story of how you met your husband.
My hubby, the plunger guy. Yes. So I alluded earlier to the fact that I do lots of different things with mac and cheese. And one of the first actual event that I did back in 2010, 2009, maybe even, or whatever, long time ago, was again with the thinking that I just want people to have a safe space to be themselves amongst other people being themselves, and meet new people and learn about new fun ways to explore the world. So I started throwing these minglers that you mentioned. You came to one, and The caveat with the minglers are that everybody comes solo so that you don't have to feel weird about being the new kid and not knowing anyone, or being, worried about, oh my God, there's gonna be a clique, or there's gonna be a circle of people who all know each other and I don't, like all that sixth grade cafeteria stuff, which I'm not saying it flippantly, like those are real like anxieties. I used to have them too, which is the reason I started these minglers, so that everybody comes solo. It's usually 20 to 30 people in my live workspace. So it's all about like sitting on comfy couches and armchairs and, wearing slippers and listening to fabulous music playlists that I have created. And everybody, that everybody in the room is there for the same reason of doing something new and meeting new people. And there's just something so beautiful and lovely about that. So Pete came to a mingler. He had just gotten out of a long-term live-in relationship and had been moping around for a few months. Woe is me. And he said he saw I forced myself to take improv class, and I posted a little flyer about the mingler in the improv community, and he saw it because he was also taking improv, and he decided, he's like, this is my sign to get off my butt and go interact with the world. So he came to that in 2009, and this was actually a very big mingler for whatever reason. I tend not to have it be as big, but there were like 40 people there, and there were everybody was going around just doing quick, like, this is where I'm from, small talk stuff, this is what I do. And he was one of the last people. And I remember he stood up, and I remember his eye contact with everybody and how powerful it was. So I had seen most, the rest of everybody else was very nervous and like, mostly like looking down and mumbling. So I remember his eye contact, his voice projection, and how good he was at engrossing me in his small talk details, like that he went to Vanderbilt and he's from Louisiana and he works in financial aid. It was like, whatever, not that engrossing. But I remember thinking like, wow, he's a good storyteller. And he wasn't telling a story. He was telling us the small talk stuff, right? But so that was my first, and it wasn't a like, ooh, I want to marry him thought, but I just remember like how attractive that was, that he seemed so confident and sure of himself. So I was just kind of like filed that away. Okay, this guy seems cool. And then a few hours later at that same mingler, he was one of the last people who was like probably like 1, 2 in the morning. And he came over to me and mentioned that when he first moved to Chicago, he had gone around to all of the barbecue restaurants in the city, and then he had created a spreadsheet ranking all of them. And I was like, oh my God, someone who took barbecue and spreadsheets, two of my favorite things, and put them together. I need to know this person. This seems, and again, it wasn't I need to marry this person. It was just like, this seems like a really cool person. So he reached out to me the next day and with a very nice thank you note, which especially for a guy to do that, I was like, oh. And I remember thinking, okay, nice guy. And then we just did the whole like back and forth. We should hang out. You're so nice, blah, blah, blah. And a month later, we started dating. So 2010, we started dating, and we have been married since 2013. And he's my best friend.
Oh my God. That's just the cutest story ever. I love that. And it just feels so like you manifested that shit, man. You brought that into your life. And like, I love it. Even your relationship is Life of Yessie.
It is. And I'm very proud of that, because I have trouble with people who teach other people to XYZ, but then aren't living the life that they claim. So, like career coaches who are like not happy in their job, or, people who give dating advice, but like, I don't know, your dating history is a little out of, so yeah. Right. So I feel, thank you for saying that, first of all. And I'm also very proud of the fact that I feel like all facets of my life, for the most part, I have two that maybe writing my book hasn't happened. And then also like health stuff, whatever. I am not the best at those two things, and it completely drives me up the wall because I'm usually so good with self-discipline and setting goals and achieving them. But anyway, the point of that being that I feel like most areas of my life are very Life of Yessie. And and that doesn't mean that they're perfect. It means, because, as you talked about earlier, like a life of yes does not mean that your life is perfect and doesn't have challenges and hurdles. It's how you deal with the shit that comes up that determines, in my mind, are you Life of Yessie? So it means a lot to hear that, people think that I am, not just preaching that I am
You're
actually
walking it.
I'm walking it,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah.
Yeah. No, I love it. And it's really inspiring too. And it gives us single Pringles hope.
Well, I can't wait to see you start dating again.
Yeah, I'll be sharing it. All right, I have two final questions for you. The first question is tell us what you got going on right now, promote yourself, tell us where people can find you. What Life of Yes stuff do you got going on?
Sure. So the website is macandcheeseproductions.com, and you can just Google Saya Mac and Cheese Productions. My mom was not thinking about like being stealth when she named me because, Saya, the immediate, you Google like Saya, Chicago, Saya Mac and Cheese.
Yep.
The first 20 pages are all about me. So I'm easily found.
Hey, that's good SEO.
It is. It is. So I should say, Mom, thank you so much for 43 years ago. You knew I was going to be a small business owner and that I would need that SEO. So thank you for not calling me Jessica. I appreciate it. So yeah, macandcheeseproductions.com has all of the things, but things that are coming up right now. So I'm really excited about, speaking of best friend husband, he and I collaborate a lot. And one of my favorite things that we do together is we kidnap people in unmarked vans and we take them somewhere magical, an unknown destination, for a weekend of unplugged. You have to come solo. You don't know where you're going. And we kidnap you, but like in a good way. And we have a Life of Yes sleepaway camp. So I just announced the next one, which is, not until June, but Life of Yes World. We're always about like committing to ourselves early and putting it in the calendar, paying that money up front so that you know that you're protecting that space. So if you think that getting kidnapped in an unmarked van with Life of Yesy people sounds fabulous, that's Life of Yes Sleepaway Camp. And then actually minglers. So speaking of minglers, I have not had an in-person mingler since August 2019. And I have been forcing myself to go out and socialize recently, both virtually and in person, and just realize how rusty I am. And as someone who I feel like socializing and having conversations with people is a superpower of mine. And I was sitting in my car outside an event, like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to do this. I should just go home. I'm like having that. I had to force myself to go in. Mm-hmm. So I was like, we are all kind of out of practice right now. And I would love to bring back this thing that has given so many people, helped so many people like dip their toe in the water of doing scary things. So I just today posted the next Mingler, which is in October. So that's coming up. And then the last thing that I'll plug is that one of my favorite ways of paying the bills is corporate workplace Life of Yesness. So where organizations, companies bring me and Pete in to speak, to lead facilitation, like team building activities, or, we're really struggling with like low morale for whatever reason, or we've all been apart from each other for 2 years, 2.5 years, and now we're coming back and we want you at our staff retreat. So we just led something yesterday, a 3-hour Life of Yes workplace facilitation, which is a variety of activities, but they all are about helping people make the workplace a place that you actually want to be. And, again, getting away from kind of the stereotypes of like adulting is the worst, it sucks. And, work is the worst, it sucks. Like, there's definitely going to be components of work that aren't the best, but Life of Yes, you can always make things better and easier. And sometimes you can even make them fun. So that's my favorite thing. And we, again, 100% word of mouth. So I'm so appreciative of people who spread the word, talk to your HR department and say, oh my gosh, I heard this girl. She sounds so fun. I think she'd be a really like a breath of fresh air from our, usual professional development sessions or whatever. So, so lots of other things too, but those are the things I will highlight.
Yes, I love it. And we'll leave links to that in the show notes. So, all right, my final question for you. It's one I ask everybody. What is your very first money memory?
Ooh, I had a very strong desire as a kid to fit in all of the ways, because I didn't feel like I fit in at all, being biracial, having a single mom, having my unusual name, all of the things, didn't have a car, grew up in an apartment, blah, blah, blah. This is why I'm writing a book, to try to get all this stuff out. But the money memory I have is related to just wanting to fit in, and meaning that I wanted to have things that my friends had. And the thing that all my friends had that I did not was a Cabbage Patch doll. And I really wanted a Cabbage Patch Kid. And they were expensive. Like, now I'm sure it was all relative, right? I have no clue how much they actually were, but definitely, more than I had. And, my mom was definitely, being a single mom and an entrepreneur herself, she did not have a lot of cash flow. At the time. So she brought me to a store and showed me the price and said that I could have the doll if I had to buy it on layaway, though. So meaning that the store would put it aside for me and I would have to make monthly payments. And as soon as I was all paid off, that I could actually take the doll home with me. So I don't remember how long it took me, but I did get that Cabbage Patch doll. And I think, I would never, I know I had a lot of tears and shame around like growing up without a lot of money and all of that. And I would never wish the tears and shame on anybody. But I will say that not being able to get all of the material items that I wanted as a kid and, definitely feeling that everybody else had it so much easier and was more lucky because they had, more money, whatever, that just made me appreciate things so much more. Mm-hmm. Right. And I have that even today when I am able to afford pedicures and upgrading to first class and stuff. Like I am a freaking little kid when I'm upgraded to first class, even though like it's not new anymore. I've done it many times, but this goes back to like childhood Saya who never had those opportunities and knows what it's like to, like go without and to feel like everybody else gets something that I don't get. So that Cabbage Patch memory. And then just kind of in general, the not having a lot of money and having to be really conscious and like seeing my mom cry over, not being able to pay bills, like, oh, that stuff sticks with you. So
100%. I love that. I love the fact too that it was layaway. Like you don't hear about layaway all that often anymore. Now it's all the other stuff, which layaway, the reason I like that specifically for a kid is like it's teaching you the power of like delayed gratification and like showing you that you have to work with it. So like what a powerful lesson. But now we have all the buy now, pay later, which is terrible. Like layaways, like I think definitely the lesser evil in those aspects because of that lesson, especially. But the buy now, pay later ones, I'm always like, oh, because you get the gratification and then you got to keep paying it low as it goes. So anyway, I love that Cabbage Patch Girl. I'm just gonna send you a bunch of Cabbage Patch Girls. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. This was really great. I now feel very inspired. Every time I talk to you, I feel like I learned something new. So
yay. I think you and I have talked about like infecting each other and other people with ED and entrepreneurial disease. And I think it's really important to note that like, I think when people are around you and I, that they assume that we are trying to encourage everybody to like do your own thing. And absolutely, I feel you and I would both say that like being your own boss, having your own thing is the best thing ever, quality of life. But I just like having a 9-to-5, like there are so many fabulous things. Like you have a regular paycheck, you have 100%. Bonuses, you have all of these things, right? And if you are happy in a 9-to-5, that's great. So it's not about like not having a 9-to-5, but what I was just thinking of was just like, infecting people with entrepreneurial disease does not necessarily mean we're trying to get everybody to be an entrepreneur and to quit your job. It's just about that finding your success, your definition of success, your ikigai, that Japanese phrase about like, what is your reason for being, your reason for getting up in the morning? What is your life of yes? Like, right. And so, yes, I feel like, when you talk about like me inspiring you, I feel the same, like find your people who are you, whenever you talk about them or with them, whenever you're around them, that you're like, oh my gosh, you did it, like, and we're like, oh my God, I can go tackle this project. I'm so inspired, right? So find your people wherever your people are, and that does not necessarily mean you need to start your own business. Just you need to figure out who you are, what you want in life, and then get that quality of life, whatever that means to you.
1,000,000%. Like figure out what kind of shit do you want in your life? What kind of shit do you not want in your life? And what kind of shit are you willing to put up with in order to have that in your life? Yeah. Like, I think that's the key is just The entrepreneurial spirit is just about taking ownership, I feel like, and deciding how you want to live your life, whether that's starting a business or whether that's just designing your life the way that you want it to. You can do that with a 9 to 5.
So
Just
you always have choice. You always have choice.
yes, yes, I love that. Such a good way to end it. So thank you so much again for coming on. We'll leave notes to all the ways to connect with Saya down in the show notes. And that's what we got for you today.
Woo woo! Thanks, Chloe.
Of course. All right, my friends. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I feel like there were so many little gold nuggets in there, and I always just feel so inspired when I talk to Saya, and I'm so grateful that she came into my life because I'm not sure I would be where I am now had she not come into my life. I actually discovered her through a blogger friend when I was a blogger, and I use air quotes for blogger. I don't want to insult actual bloggers, but she's just such a cool person, and she literally walks the walk of life of yes, and just a cool human being to be connected with. So I highly recommend checking out what she's got going on. If you're in the Chicago area, especially, she does a lot of local events. And if you're looking to hire somebody like her, go hire her. I could not recommend her more. The accessible Oprah. So links to everything down in the show notes. But I just want to thank you guys again for listening. If you made it this far, since we did briefly talk about money, always remember this is not financial advice. We're talking about money. We're doing it for entertainment purposes. This is never supposed to be individualized personal finance advice. So if you're looking for that type of advice, go hire a professional, my friend, or do the research yourself, which is what I always recommend. So anyway, that's what we got going on. Again, if you made it this far, please rate and review and subscribe. It helps us out a lot. And if you're sitting here like, Chloe, I want to get started on managing my finances, head on over to the lazyinvestorscourse.com/guide to get that free money guide and register for my free investing class at the lazyinvestorscourse.com/webinar. So hope to see you there, and I'll talk to you guys next week. Thanks. Bye.